Hello. We're live.
Welcome to the Heart Coherence Collaborative.
Recording started.
Welcome everybody to the Heart Coherence Collaborative. We are so excited because we have Jessica Smith with us tonight, and today we're going to be talking about something that we haven't talked about before on the Heart Coherence Collaborative, but it's something that we all love talking about, and that is love and relationships. So welcome, Jessica. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So Leah's going to read your official bio, and then we'll dive into the heart together and we'll kick this off.
Yes.
Great.
So, Jessica Smith is an international dating coach who has helped hundreds of people find love and feel empowered in their love lives. From professional athletes, film producers, and executives to divorced single parents, Jessica has supported her clients in making powerful transformations. Over the years of being a prominent dating coach, she has gained notoriety as the female Hitch. I love that.
Let's go.
She's the author of 21 Days to Feeling Gorgeous, Finally Love the Skin You're In, and Be the Badass Goddess You're Meant to Be.
Yes.
Some title. And transformational workbook designed to help women step into their power to feel confident, vibrant, and utterly badass.
Wow. Jessica
is also the host of the Game of Love podcast that's heard in over 33 countries on all major platforms, as well as the Game of Love radio show. For over a decade, Jessica has taught yoga all over the world, leading annual international yoga retreats that are dedicated to helping women make life-changing shifts. She's also a contributor and teacher for YogiApproved.com. A leader in body positivity, as a certified nutritional psychology coach, and trained to help those struggling with eating disorders and body dysmorphia. And you also appear in the documentary Leap, the coaching movie.
Wow.
You're busy.
What a bio.
Woo! Wow, thank you for that amazing introduction. And it was lovely to to hear it. I haven't heard my bio in a while, but
that's awesome. Yeah, that's me.
That's me.
That's me. Oh.
That's cool. That's awesome. Yeah, be proud. You know what? We're gonna dive into the heart, and we're gonna feel proud together. So let's do that.
Oh, I love that.
All right, let's focus our attention in the area of our hearts, and imagine that your breath is flowing in and out of your heart or chest area, breathing a little slower and deeper than usual. And try a pace of 5 seconds on the in-breath, 5 seconds on the out-breath, in and out through the heart. Now, as you're breathing in and out through your heart, think about something in your life that you're really proud of. Maybe it's an accomplishment. Maybe it's sometime you stepped into something you were fearful of and overcame it. But as you breathe in and out of your heart, just feel proud for something that you were able to do. Just really feel it.
And next, we're going to keep breathing in and out of our heart and imagine the feeling of ease. So let's imagine ourselves sitting on a beach. There's a sunset. You can breathe in really fresh air and you have nowhere to go. And just breathe that feeling of ease in and out of your heart.
As you continue to breathe in and out through your heart, On your in-breath, radiate the feeling of care, compassion, and kindness towards yourself. And on the out-breath, radiate the feeling of care, compassion, and kindness towards others. So breathe in towards yourself, love, breathe love in towards yourself, and breathe love out towards others.
And next, we're going to keep breathing in and out of our heart. And think of something that you really appreciate and really feel into it. It could be a person. It could be a place that you love to go. It could be a meal you love to eat at your favorite restaurant. Think about something, someone that you appreciate, and just smile into it and really feel that appreciation in your body.
All right.
Okay.
So yeah, thank you again, Jessica,
Ooh.
for joining us. You like that?
How do you feel?
Yeah, that was, I feel great. Thank you
Oh,
so much for leading that. That was really beautiful. I've had such an amazing day. So to be here with you guys today just feels so auspicious, and I feel very, very blessed. So thank you.
we're so grateful to just have you here so we can learn. We've never had anyone on, as I was saying, to talk about love and relationships. So please just know this is a blank slate. Pretend we know nothing.
Because we do. That's how we feel all the time.
Jesus, please, we're struggling.
Lay it on us.
Well, thank you so much. Well, something that I would love to start with is that so often when it comes to dating, because most of my clients are single, that sometimes there is a disconnect between their dating life and their spiritual life. And a lot of times when people think of spirituality, they'll think about sitting in meditation, being on their yoga mat, being in a temple or a place of worship. And when it comes to their dating life, the dating world is tumultuous. Let's just be real about it. And so a lot of times there's a disconnect, and there could be just an awkward feeling or frustration, overwhelm. And really what I do with a lot of my clients is I bring the spiritual world into their dating life and really illuminate that their love life is their spiritual journey, and that there is so much to derive from it. You know, everything from self-awareness and self-love, how we are interacting with others, and it's we're all a teacher to each other, and also the enjoyment of it all too. And so I infuse a lot of the spirit world into the dating world because it is spiritual.
Yeah. So do you think a lot of like the mistakes that people are making is like from a lack of love from themselves, or just not a spiritual connection in general?
Great question. Really, the man behind the curtain, or the woman behind the curtain, and the secret sauce is, a lot of people come to me and they're like, I want to find my person.
Yeah.
And I need help. And a majority of the work that I do is around the self and how they feel about themselves. And I'm an advocate for not only self-love, but unconditional self-love. So often when we think about ourselves, we're like, okay, I'm this, and then we decide what we like and what we don't like and what we love. And it's beautiful to have that awareness and that commitment to strengthening our weaknesses and being introspective and knowing, where we need to heal and transform. That's all beautiful. And really embracing ourselves in our totality and loving even the things that we don't think are really lovable. And that's where we really then stand in our power, when we really love ourselves. And then this beautiful alchemy occurs when we're good with ourselves, when we're like, yes, that's where I'm deficient. I got wounds over here. I'm working on
Yeah,
this. Da 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 da
yeah,
da.
yeah, yeah.
You know, and when we love ourselves, there's all of a sudden this air about us that is so relaxed, and there's a zest for life, and there's confidence there, and then that's what's really attractive.
Yes,
And that's attractive in a even in a non-sexual way.
yeah.
That when you have this luminescence about you, that people are like, "Ooh, who's that?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Wow, I want to
yeah.
know that person. I want to be their friend, or I want to
Mm,
date them, or whatever it is. And so, really, yeah, a majority of the work that I do is to help people really, really love themselves unconditionally.
yeah.
So what I would love to hear, because I always love the how.
Mm,
Like there's all these concepts, and I'm sure I have my house, but I always want to hear. You hear like, okay, love yourself unconditionally, or develop this relationship with yourself. So what does that mean in terms of practical instruction or processes that you teach people? How do you
Oh,
get?
that is a great question. It reminds me, I was at a Hay House conference several years ago, and Cheryl Richardson was on stage, and she said, "We all hear you gotta love yourself. You gotta love yourself." And she's like, "How in the hell do you love yourself? Nobody knows how to do it around here." And it was
right?
really cute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so true.
And I really took that and clung on to it, and
Mm,
and that's why I wrote my book, 21 Days to Feeling
yes.
Gorgeous,
Hmm.
because I went through my own journey. I had my own issues. I didn't love myself unconditionally.
Yeah.
I was married once upon a time, and coming out of that marriage, I was a complete mess, and I didn't know who I was. I didn't know how to love myself, and so I went on a journey of self-love, and I only dated myself for a year.
Hmm.
And it's at that point, it was the biggest the biggest body of work, and the biggest transformation that I had had thus far in my spiritual journey. And so the process that I went through to heal and to learn to love myself, and learn just to like myself, because
Yeah,
sometimes we need to start
yeah, for
there, right?
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
start
yeah,
small.
yeah,
And it's like sometimes
yeah.
we need to baby step it. And the goal is to not only love ourselves unconditionally, but like be like madly and
Yeah,
deeply in
yes.
love with ourselves.
Mm,
And so what I do in my book, 21 Days to Feeling Gorgeous, it's a transformational workbook, like you so eloquently said in my bio. So it's every day there's a lesson, and then there's a very simple yet powerful exercise for people to do. And so I listen, we're all busy.
yeah,
We
yeah.
all want results. We want the instant gratification if we can, and so that's how I wrote this book, to be simple and powerful. And so I talk about my journey in the book. I talk about clients. I talk about my retreats and the transformations that people have had, and then give little not only anecdotal stories. I give them practical exercises to do.
Oh, that's
Could
awesome.
you, would you share with us if you can? I'm sure it's your workbook, so I'm sure you can remember one. Is there one that you could share a little self-love exercise with us?
Oh my gosh, there's
Anything
so
that
many. I'm like, where do I
you're
start?
Oh,
Um, well, one of them that I absolutely love, and it has gone mainstream. This was not my original idea. This was actually Louise Hay, the founder of Hay
mm,
House. God
proud
rest her soul. Inspiration of mine. Doing mirror work, and how important it
mm,
is for us to really see ourselves and to do a meditation. So, what I teach in the book is doing mirror work along with Abhyanga, which is Ayurvedic massage.
mm.
So you are doing really a massage, meditation, and a self-love practice all in one. And I absolutely love that, and
Oh, that's
I've
awesome.
experienced a big, powerful transformation, and a lot of my readers and clients have too.
Oh, that's so cool. It reminds me, like recently I started doing this thing where I've been observing like the actions I'm taking throughout the day, and like, is this loving or not? And the one area that I really recognized that it was coming up where I'm like, I'm not loving myself in this moment is with food. And it's like I would just make this quick decision, sort of like unconsciously, where I was putting something in my body that wasn't optimal. And so I started doing this thing where I won't put something in my body unless I can celebrate it. And so when I eat it, I'm like, yes, because it's like a self love. Like I'm celebrating the fact that I love myself. And I feel like it gives the food a different frequency because I'm like,
Ooh.
loving it, you know? Yeah.
I love that so much. And what a beautiful practice. And I love that you bring it up because the other one that I would love to share is make
Mm.
sure you are getting vitamin P. Now,
P.
the P is pleasure.
Oh, yeah. I kind of.
I
I
went
thought it was
somewhere
gonna be
else.
that or the other one that she was thinking.
Well, vitamin P is essential, and our
Yeah.
brains are really hardwired to seek out pleasure. And so
Yeah.
it's something that we need to make sure that we are getting ourselves every day. So I love
Mm.
that you're doing that with food, that you are being conscious about the foods that you are choosing, infusing
Yeah.
love, and then introducing them into your body in a very loving way. And
Yeah.
I could go down a whole rabbit hole why that is such a beautiful thing on a energetic and
Yes.
also a physical level. And going back to that pleasure, we can derive pleasure in many different ways. It could be in a beautiful meal and how we ingest it,
Mm.
just like you were sharing.
Yeah.
I love that because I write about a similar
Yeah.
practice in my book. So you and I are on the same page
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And also finding pleasure in if it's taking a bath or going for a run or reading, really absorbing these things and like they're
Yeah.
just like you're doing with your eating practice, that you're
Yeah.
infusing love. And I you guys don't know me very well yet, but I
I
am
like
very
we do
special. I'm very extra. Pardon the noise. My man is coming home. So each day that we are doing things to actively fill ourselves,
Yeah.
and it can take on many different forms. So yes, make
It
sure
is
you
too.
get your vitamin P.
It's an interesting thing too when it comes to like the diet because it's like most people will be like eat good food or eat bad food, but like Leah will make me a cookie, right? And she'll make it with love. And in that moment, I celebrate it. I'm like, she made it with love, so it can qualify in my diet, and I will
Yes,
love myself because it was a love gift,
The
you
love
know?
cookie.
Yeah.
yes,
But I'm not
and
going to the store and buying one for no reason, you know? It's just,
that's right.
yeah.
And there's actually studies. Hello, my love. There are actually studies that show when you are eating food that's made with love and you're ingesting it in a
Yes.
lovely
Yeah.
way, no matter the caloric count or the nutritional level, your body will assimilate it in a very healthy manner. So that's why when like we're eating our grandmother's cooking and it's full of butter and lard and starch and everything, we think we're going to
Yeah.
gain 8 pounds over Thanksgiving. A lot of us aren't, if we are ingesting it in a loving way and we're really bringing
Mm.
that love into ourselves. And that's why we call it soul food, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and that is really interesting. I've seen all kinds of studies with food, even where they take the same food, but if people perceive it differently, even though it has the same components, it's processed differently.
Mm.
I love that little added magic component because one time we were interviewing Josh Tongol, and he's super healthy. He looks like 20 years younger, and he said, "I drink Pepsi all day, and I like eat donuts or whatever." He said, I don't think that's advisable, but there is something more than just what things are. There's the way that there's the energy, there's the way that you receive them.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's some magic there.
There
Mm.
is magic. And speaking of magic, I want some of those cookies, Leah.
Yeah,
I
that's so
can
good.
send some to you.
They'll take you right back to your childhood. You'll just feel
Mm.
like back to grandma's house. Or, yeah, it really does bring me back every time. I have a
Yeah.
question though that just came up for me. So it's like, all right,
Okay.
you teach people how to find love within themselves, and then they do that. Do you give them advice on then finding a partner? Or 'cause it's like, I feel like people do that, but then they'll still maybe bark up the wrong tree, or do
Yes,
you
and
think
that is
it just come naturally once they find the love for themselves, or what's that like? Yeah,
It is
that
all
bridge.
of the above. It is all of the
Yeah.
above. So once we started tackling those internal issues, healing and
Mm,
loving ourselves unconditionally, then I will actively sit down with my clients and we will comb through who their ideal partner is and what their ideal
yeah.
relationship looks like. And we
Yeah.
begin that manifestation process. And then you couple that with the, how I mentioned earlier, that when we embrace our dating life as a spiritual journey, and
Mm,
we're vibrating from this higher place, we love ourselves, so we're putting out these attractive vibes,
yeah.
then that person that we are calling in and manifesting will be drawn to us. And so there is a practical component to it and working around logistics and all that good stuff, and there's the magical side to it that, spirit comes in and,
Yeah.
will bring people in and hopefully the ideal partner.
Yeah.
I would love to know your perspective on, and thinking about, okay, so maybe you really attained some feeling of self love and connection with that. And then you do go out to find a partner. For those of us who may have had parent relationships that were less than ideal,
Mm,
there are these ways, these
mm,
primal ways that you are set up to be
Yes, ma'am.
attracted to your parents, essentially, to finish those
Absolutely.
things.
mm.
So I think the big question, it's great if you got good parents. Many people did not. Feels like most
Yeah.
of us maybe.
Most. Yeah.
Mm,
That is an excellent question. And that is something that I work with a lot because most people do have, issues with their parents and they, show up as mommy and daddy issues. And ultimately, what happens when we are not, seeking treatment and healing them is we end up dating our wounds, is what I
mm,
always say. That I am a perfect example of that. I had
yeah.
daddy issues and I would end up dating guys that were just like my father.
Mm,
It's again going back to that spiritual journey. It's a beautiful time when you are having failure after failure in your dating life, just to hit the pause button
yeah.
and take a look at it and, you know, ask yourself, what is my relationship like with my mother? What is relationship like with my father? Okay, we get that scope of things. Now, what is my love life like? Who am I dating? Because a
Mm,
lot of times we will start dating the same person over and over again. It's not the same person, but it's
But it is.
it's a
yeah.
different person, but the same issues, right? That
Mm,
dating the wounds where we keep these negative dating patterns going. But if we do stop and we start to heal them, then we'll start calling in different people as we heal.
yeah. Is it true that you, like, in some instances, you almost need the relationship to bring it up? Or can you hear it without it? Because it's like, you don't know what you don't know until you know it.
Yes, both of them. Both of them. That is
Yeah.
such a great question. I I walk my talk, and so I've been in
Yeah.
therapy and I've done tons of work, and the work that I've done, I help my
Mm,
clients do, and so it's very interesting because there's a bulk of work that we have to take personal
yeah.
responsibility and embark on that journey, and we
Mhm.
gotta work through our issues, and then a lot of times we need those people to come in, the partners to come in, and we put everything into action, into practice, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then we there's only so much we can do on our own, and I
Mm,
subscribe to the theory that our partner is our guru,
yes.
and the guru is our teacher. And yes, Leah's the guru, the guru. So
Right.
our person that the guru shines the light on the darkness, and so our partner
Yeah.
comes in. We've
Mm,
done a body of work. We're
Mm,
ready,
right.
yeah.
and then they come in and they shine the light, and they're like, well, "What about that issue? What
Yes.
about that thing?"
Oh, yeah.
And they, you know, they
Oh, yeah.
they can lovingly help us through. They could push our buttons, and that's how we learn and evolve. So we need both. We need to do the work on our own,
Yeah.
and then we need to be ready to embark on a new body of work once we get into partnership.
Yes, yeah, and that's so true, that second part, because a lot of times, like, somebody will get in a relationship, and then something will be reflected, and it'll pop up, and then they'll think it's their partner's problem, and they're like, "Oh, I'm out of here," and then they'll go into another relationship, and the same thing will pop up, and they'll try to run, and it just keeps popping up, and it's only in that space that you can work through it, you know?
Yes. Yes. And thank you for bringing that up too, that it'll keep showing up
Yeah,
until we heal it.
yeah, it
Yeah.
can be tough.
Yeah.
Well,
Woo!
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it can.
Yeah.
And rewarding, I'll say. There's some
Yeah.
parts where it's like when you conquer a wound, and then you're like, "Oh, I acted differently this time than I have in the past." That's like, what's cooler than that, you know? It's like,
Yep.
oh, so freeing.
That's
I
right.
think it's a very masculine thing to say that you conquered your
I
wound.
conquered my wound. I beat
You
my
know,
wound.
I would
that
say you heal your wound. He says, I conquered
I
my
conquered it. I
wound.
dominated
I
it.
love it. I love it. That's that like king energy coming through. I'm
Yeah,
about it.
yeah, yeah.
The thing that I started thinking about was, when we're talking about healing these wounds and healing things with your parents, do you feel like there's a way to directly heal? Like there's something active, or do you really feel like it's more that background work that you're doing with yourself? Or are there active processes that you do with clients to specifically say, because, okay, what if you have the knowledge, your dad was like this, you keep dating this guy
Mm,
who's him? Is there something I can do to resolve these things with my dad?
ooh,
Yes, there is. That is such a good question. So powerful to have that awareness. So something that I do with a lot of my clients when they're having these type of issues is I will take them through a guided meditation to be with their inner child and talk to their
mm,
inner child. And that it often illuminates where they were not parented in the way that they needed
yeah,
to be parented. So not only does it bring the issue to the surface, then we take the next step and say, okay, you are not parented in this way. There's still this little child living inside of you that is still needing to be parented. Now,
mm,
as the adult, you can turn to yourself and say, okay, I'm going to be my own parent now.
mm,
I'm going to start parenting myself the way that I need to be parented,
yeah,
and really bringing that love. And going back to the cooking and the cookie
yeah,
situation, for those that are embarking in this type of work, a beautiful thing you can do each day is check in with your inner child. And
mm,
like, how can I love my inner child? What can I do for you
ooh,
today? For an example, something silly that and playful that I did when I was doing this body of work for myself was I wanted to do cartwheels every day.
nice.
So I would go to the gym and I would do
Yeah,
cartwheels.
Yes.
And, I'm like grown woman doing cartwheels in a gym. And I'm like, that's what my inner child needed. And
oh,
then
I
I would,
love it.
even with food, I would say, okay, little
Mm,
Jessica, what do you need? And I'm like, well, I need a banana split today. Well, we're going to get a banana split today. And
Mm.
so, you
wow.
know, being in touch with that inner child and feeding that inner child, and what will happen after you give consistent,
Oh,
proper love, then
yeah.
that child then gets quiet,
Mm,
it more and more quiet,
cool.
and you are more in alignment with yourself.
Wow, I just got chills because one of the things, so we keep doing all these guided meditations where we guide people into the heart space. And often one of the things I'll say is like, what's something you're proud of? And for me, one thing that keeps coming up, and I haven't really been able to understand why it keeps coming up, but there's like this 60-foot cliff that my friends and we go jump off of. And recently I just walked up to it fearlessly and just like flew off and into the ocean. And it was just like, yeah. But what I just realized from you saying that is that's my inner child. Like my inner child just wants to play. It wants to be wild. It wants to do backflips off of huge rocks and get crazy. And so I need to do more of that. Oh, I think.
Oh, are we frozen? Mm. Oh, you're
Oh,
back.
woo,
Okay. Whew.
yeah.
I was like, she's so excited by that.
Yeah, you
I was like, wow, you really threw
you
her.
like my jumps.
I do. Okay, so my video paused when you went up to the cliff. So that's the last I heard.
Why don't you tell that story? Because
Yeah.
hold on, because I'm going to probably need to edit this. So just say the story again.
Yeah, so the story is, so basically we have been going into the heart space a lot because we guide a lot of people in heart coherence, and one of the things we guide people in is moments they're proud of. And for me, one thing that keeps coming up is this time recently with my boys where we went cliff jumping, and I just walked up to the cliff, wicked high, 60 feet, and I just flew off, like didn't even think about it. Everyone else was shaking. I was just like, let's go. And I sent it, and I didn't realize until you just said it, the reason why, because I've been like, why have I been so proud of that? Like, it wasn't anything big, but it's my inner child. Like you had just said, my inner child just wants to fly. It wants to play. It wants to be free. It wants to do things like that, you know? And so now that I've recognized how important that is to me, based off of what you just said, I'm going to do more of it.
I love that.
Like you doing
Oh,
cartwheels. I'm just going to go get wild, jump off, swing from tree to tree or something, you know?
I love it. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Cater to that inner child.
Yeah.
And I like what you said, because I think there's this way in which we feel like the best way to deal with ourselves, the healthiest and best way would be, for example, to be like a food Nazi. So the best way to take care of myself would be I'm going to eat green drinks all day. I'm going to never have sugar. And where you're actually at, where it might be kind and loving to be at, is to maybe mostly eat food. But if you maybe want a banana split, then you have it, and you don't tell yourself that you're a piece of crap when you eat it. Like,
That's right.
you just like, that's how you take care of children. You feed them mostly healthy stuff, and then maybe you go for ice cream every once in a while and you enjoy it. But I think the way that you talked about yourself with food when you were taking care of yourself, I think that's an atypical way to love yourself and think about it. Because I think sometimes we think about the best way to take care of ourselves would be to be perfect, which feeds the cycle.
Yes. And I'm laughing because this is an intimate story that I share in my book, that I was on this quest to be perfect. I wanted to have the perfect body. I was going to have the perfect size. Everything was perfect.
Yeah.
And I was at my ideal weight, and my body was banging, and like I looked fabulous, and I was utterly miserable. One, because I was starving, and two, because I had no pleasure in my life. And I had this thing that I would only eat a half a protein bar for breakfast and half a protein bar for lunch. And I was going to the pantry to get my half protein bar that tasted like cardboard. And I stopped, and I'm like, oh my God, I have no pleasure in my life. Because at the time, I couldn't get pleasure by going out and having dinner with my friends, or going have a few drinks, or I had a multitude of issues, to be quite frank. And I realized in that moment is because I had no pleasure. And so it was about finding that balance of, how do I live a healthy lifestyle and give myself plenty of pleasure? And sadly, this is an issue that I see in countless people, and I work with my clients, and it's quite the thing. So that's why I'm such an advocate on getting your vitamin P.
And it's kind of like from it's like you're almost like when you're going to the gym or when you're taking a diet so fiercely like that, it's almost from a place of not loving yourself or loving what is in the first place.
Yes.
Whereas if you can love what is and then take it from there, then you can go to the gym in a loving way, but not from a place of lack, because it seems like when we do it from that not loving what is place, that's how we do create disease and just more lack. We never get there. We're always chasing.
Well said. Well said. Yes.
Yeah, it's an interesting journey, I think, to end up taking care of yourself and figuring it out. Because like I'm in recovery, so I'm not doing any drinking or substances of any kind. There's no chemicals going into my body in general that are in that category. So I realized there is something in me that I know lived in you at least at one time, which is, this drive to be perfect. Like, I'll do everything perfect. But especially because I don't even do other stuff, at a certain point, I decided with a full, like, I was absolutely in my heart knowing I actually do sometimes want to eat cookies. But I don't want to eat them and yell at myself. I actually want to decide that as part, and it may change later. Like next year, I might eat no sugar because I'm actually there. But I'm not there right now. And I would like to eat, not all day. I don't have a problem. I don't need a sleeve of cookies.
You're the cookie monster. It's
I feel like now
I'm actually the cookie monster.
I have this reputation as the cookie girl, but I'm just saying cookies because you said cookies.
So
but
cute.
To actually decide where you are and not have the decisions you make be based on some imaginary idea from someone else about what the right thing is to do. Like actually check in with yourself and say,
yep,
this is where I am. Like maybe you're pushing yourself a little bit, maybe you're being a little bit healthier, but you're not depriving yourself and being on someone else's plan of what is loving.
That's right. Having that awareness and checking in with yourself. And then when you make a decision, do yourself a favor and don't add any shame or judgment on top of it. Just say, right now, for whatever reason, I want to eat cookies.
Yeah.
Because maybe I'm numbing out. Maybe I've been depriving myself, whatever the reason is. We don't need to, it's good to have that awareness. But if we can't get to that place of awareness, that's okay too. We're not going to add any more stress to our lives. Life is hard enough. We don't need any more. So just go ahead and eat the cookies and fully enjoy them. Like make love to these cookies. Like really enjoy it. And then just be like, you know what? I just ate some cookies and they were freaking delicious. End of story. There's there's no shaming. There's no ridiculing. There's no nothing. Just pure enjoyment.
Yeah.
I think one thing I can relate to, like definitely back in the day, and even still sometimes I'll get in this trap where like I'll try to like I focus my attention outwardly for approval instead of like inwardly, And from a lot of the different we like deal with a lot of people that do reality creation, and they talk about how it's all a mirror. So it's like if you're not giving yourself that inward love, it's always going to reflect itself outwardly, So I recently have like gotten a stride where I really am. I'm celebrating life. I'm feeling so good, and things are starting to improve in the external environment. And the other thing too is it's a long journey. So it's just like I try not to beat myself up, and there's always going to be more ways we can improve. We're always going to learn. But I like what you said about how making it like reflective, like the mirror work is so important, so that you're actually finding ways to reflect back in your day. Where can I be more loving to myself?
Yep, exactly. I love that. It's so beautiful.
Yeah. So I would love to, for our followers who aren't maybe not familiar with some of your work, what's your podcast all about? What topics you talk about? I want to introduce all of them to your work.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. My podcast is called The Game of Love, and I'm on all major platforms, Spotify, Apple, Google Play, all of them. And there's 100 episodes, no, just over 100 episodes up, and I talk about a variety of things. So for your audience, you can go in and scroll through and see what catches your eye and dive on in. And there's a lot of episodes that I'm by myself talking about specific topics, everything love, dating, spirituality, sex, relationships. And sometimes I bring in guests and we do, interviews. And I have a radio show here in Colorado. It's the Game of Love radio show. And just today, I'm so excited to share. You guys are the first ones to hear.
Oh, let's go!
Today, my new spin-off show was just announced, just birthed to the world, and it is called The Game of Love After Dark. And so I'm very, very excited about that.
Nice!
Yes.
Congratulations!
Thank you.
Yeah.
It is so. each episode, I have a co-host for the show, and each episode, her and I break down and dive into a specific sexual topic,
Right.
really to normalize, to de-shame, to demystify, to educate and entertain. So yeah, we go deep, and our first episode that dropped today is all around porn and the pros and
Yeah.
cons and how it can help or hinder your real sex life. And so we just it's a platform to be welcoming and inclusive, just to talk about sex
Yeah.
in you know, in a comfortable way.
It's so important because it's just something everybody needs to be talking about. We're all, involved in it in one way, shape, or form. So
Some of us.
yeah,
Right. I
yeah,
said that the other day. I'm like, we're all doing it. And then I stopped. I'm like, I hope we're all
Actually,
doing it. A lot of us are thinking about it. Well, maybe, yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
we're at least mostly thinking about it.
yeah,
mostly, yeah.
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 I think a fair majority are doing it, but I think we do have a weird thing in America where we're so overly sexualized and yet sexually repressed at the same time.
Mm,
I know it. Thank you for saying that. It does boggle my mind how there's that dichotomy there, and it's like, okay, so one of the intentions with this show is to bridge that gap and
yeah.
make talking about sex just as normal as thinking about it and doing it.
Mm. Yeah, and there's a lot too going on with like the divine feminine and masculine. Like I help a lot of guys, or at least I hear from a lot of guys that they're struggling in their relationships, and there's a lot of thematic things that I'm hearing repetitive things where it's like they've kind of like they're not just showing up as like that divine masculine energy in a way, and it seems like it's playing itself out in certain ways, and it's so this is stuff that has to be talked about.
That's right. And I love that you guys are having conversations about the divine masculine and the divine feminine. That's something that's near and dear to my heart. I love to talk about it.
Me
And
too.
Yeah, that's one of our favorite things.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
oh, I love that you two have each other that you can talk about it and then, embody it as well.
Yeah. It is. It's so fascinating.
It is so fascinating, but I think there is some sort of theme in our country where, and everybody's free to be doing whatever they want, to be on whatever spectrum of whatever they want. But also, we deny this basic truth now. You almost can't say it in public that men and women are different. For some reason, at some point, this became a pretend thing that we all don't know that. I mean, I was totally sure that boys and girls were different when my brother and I were in the bath. There's some clear differences.
Yeah.
And then there's a way, I always think that things are funny because they're true. So a group of women can generally get together and all laugh about what their guys all do.
Yeah.
And it's because there's some tendencies of what guys are like and what women are like.
We get together and laugh about you guys too.
I bet you do.
You're perfect.
Can you believe she did this? No.
Some basic facts and also some chemical differences. In other words, for most men, if they're living like a woman, in other words, they don't have a purpose and they're not needed. All the things that really light men up, their testosterone is low and they're depressed. There are chemical effects for most people. For women who are appearing like men in the world and that generally forms into being overwhelmed. And for guys, it goes into depression. And they are facts that are studied and you can look at the chemistry of it. But it's like this secret thing now where I've gone into conversations where everybody's saying like, there's no differences and there's really no gender, like it's all the same thing. And then I'll say the things I just said and everyone will go, oh yeah, no, we do that. We're afraid to say it.
It is an interesting thing because it is touchy to talk about, where it's like, all right, the fact that women have gained like some stuff, like it's like they show up differently. I can't even say it, and as a result, like, so for example, here's something that I've seen. A bunch of guys have come to me and said, like, my girl is just not happy with me. She wants to leave me. She's not satisfied anymore. I'm like, what are you doing? And they're like, I'm begging her to come back. And I'm like, are you showing up as a man? Do you have purpose? Are you strong? Are you solid? And then like instantly from the second they go from like whining and begging her back, which is really down regulating her attraction because they're coming across as needy, and they stand in that solidness, like literally it's like she comes right back. And I'm not saying
Yep.
that this is like, but
I'm not
It's not gameplay.
yeah,
It's not gameplay. Yeah,
right.
I
It's
understand.
just be solid, have a purpose, be a man.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. I agree with everything you guys said. And what when I talk about the masculine, the feminine, and men and women, I say, look, we are equal, but
Yeah.
we are different. We are
Yes.
equal, but we are
Yes.
different. It's the
Yeah.
yin and the yang. And of course, as you guys know, that the masculine, the feminine, those are energies, right?
Right.
And so it doesn't matter the gender. We can oscillate between,
Yeah.
our energies. Yet, since we are, biologically different, men and women are biologically different, we are predisposed to certain dominant energies. And
Yeah.
to your point, Kyle, that I love that you said this, because I've been talking about this all week long, that in order for a relationship to be successful, a man must know his purpose.
Yeah.
He must know who he is and where he's going. And as that divine masculine, he turns into the leader, and
Yeah.
he's the rock. And talking about leadership, when a man does not have a purpose and he does not know where he's going, he cannot lead the relationship.
Right.
We can run amok. Where are we going in the situation? I ask that as the divine feminine. And so it's critical for a man to stand in his masculine, and part of that being in his divine masculine is having purpose.
Yeah. And the only way that would work otherwise is I'm just asking this because I think it's an interesting question. But if the female has embodied the divine masculine in its entirety, then maybe the guy can be purposeless and embody the divine feminine. But I don't know how that will work, and I don't know if she'll stay attracted or what. But I haven't seen it. I haven't seen too many successful case
Versions
studies to
of
prove that. But I do think that this is why a lot of people are having divorces, relationships aren't working, and certain things. So I want to continue this conversation.
Yeah, I do too.
You know?
Because I think we're lost, and I think we've been fed a narrative that's not true but has become popular.
Yeah.
And every conversation I have with people, even people I might think wouldn't be receptive to this, they say something in a group, but as soon as I'm always the only and one person who will say the things that
Good for you. Good for you, Leah.
Yeah. She's telling the truth.
I think that
I've seen it.
I'm not afraid to say the truth, and I think I'm always speaking with love. But the thing that happens is, if there's just one person who says these things, first of all, these are not controversial ideas. I don't even understand why these would be regarded. They seem to me to be fairly obvious.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I think it's due to the tumultuous nature of our society right now, that everybody is hyper sensitive, maybe hyper aware.
Yeah.
And so I think we're just in this kind of like delicate place of
Yeah.
I would bring that back to the collective shadow work that we're all doing right now. And so I hear you. Because we're cut from the same cloth. I will definitely be the one that says the things that you've shared, and I have noticed that people are like, ooh, I don't know if you're supposed to say that right now, this day and age.
Yeah.
I know, but it's really interesting, and I'm lucky to have. I feel like I'm constantly attracting and always talking to people who are open-minded and not in that, not in that weird, rigid, pretend everything is a certain way because it's popular to say this kind of thing. So I have all kinds of different friends. Like I have a very close relative who's trans. I have other trans friends. And the funny thing that they have told me, even different people that have started taking the hormones of the sex they're transitioning into, what they describe is what we would think of as the typical differences between men and women, or some of them. Like my one friend who's a trans woman said when she started taking estrogen, she goes, I would never have understood this, but like sometimes I just wake up and I'm upset and I don't know why. Like,
welcome to womanhood, honey.
being a woman.
Yeah.
Right? And then trans man saying, oh my God, I used to, when I was a woman, think like men were exaggerating their sexual desire and how horny they were.
Yeah.
And now that I'm taking testosterone, I feel like an animal.
Yeah.
Like,
good for you. Enjoy that.
So it's like there's some truth to biology and chemistry. And when you have, I don't have like trans people in my life who are those people that you can't talk about things with. So I have real conversations, and these are things that those of us who are not afraid of outside opinions and what people think, which, you know, with every passing moment, I care less and less what people think. I didn't start out caring that much, but I think we all need to keep talking about these things that you're not supposed to talk about. Otherwise, we're all going to turn into weirdos in this country. You know?
Yes, I agree with that. And doing so, you know, in a very compassionate, heartfelt way, and from a place of curiosity. And, you know, using the golden rule too, right?
Yes. Yeah. This was so good.
Yeah, this was so good. And I just, like, how else other than your podcast can our followers find you? Like, I know you do retreats, stuff like that. What are all the things that they can, you know?
Coaching, all of that.
Yeah, I do private coaching. I'm going to be launching a group coaching program around my book come the first of the year that I'm very excited about. So that'll be 8 weeks to Feeling Gorgeous, which I will walk through the book, and it'll be there'll be guided meditations and doing a lot of work within the sacred circle and a lot of sharing, which I love. So it'll be like a virtual retreat, which I'm really excited about. Yes, and people can find me at my website is jessicasmith.love, and my Instagram is the same, jessicasmith.love.
Awesome. Well, we're so grateful that you came on. Hopefully this is just the start of an amazing friendship. We appreciate you, and thank you so much.
Thank you guys. This was so much fun. You two are lovely, and thank you so much for having me on. And thanks to our mutual friend Aaron Abke for bringing us together. He is such a great man. So thank you to Aaron, and thank you guys so much for having me on.
Thank you so much, Jessica.
And we're sending everybody love.